on the importance, because you talked about too, you wasn't able to dance. So talk a little bit about the importance of one, how long you've been dancing for God, and then two, like how, because I've seen you last year doing the crossover service, and they was up here ministering, and anybody that's ever seen Dancing with a Purpose and seen you dance with Dancing with a Purpose, and then see you on the outskirts supporting Dancing, you can just see like in her whole demeanor that like her heart is like, man, I wanna go. I wanna go up there.
Right up there.
So what was that journey in itself like?
Man, so it was hard because like I said, going through. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can talk about like the lawsuit and stuff.
Okay, you don't have to get into that stuff, but yeah.
Okay, but going through the trials and trials and tribulations of a car accident. If many of you don't know, if you hire an attorney and do all this, it took 2 years. Like I said, I got into my accident in 2022, so. It's 2024 now, so from 2022 to 2024, think about like all that time. Like I was still dancing back in 2022, even though I wasn't supposed to be dancing. But I had to stop after I got my back surgery. And after I got my back surgery, it was hard for me because it's like the enemy was in my ear, kind of like, you're not gonna be able to dance no more.
Yeah.
You sat down now.
Yeah.
You injured now. So what you gonna do now?
Yeah.
So he was getting to me mentally, and not only mentally but emotionally.
Yeah.
Like I said, the car accident took a toll on me emotionally. Like I felt as if I was going insane without dancing. After the season of her redemption, that's really when I had to stop dancing. And I was out of dancing from July 23 until it's been a year now since I've not been dancing, but it's been hard. Seeing them go out and minister, it's different watching them in the crowd, because now I can see what everybody else sees.
Yeah.
But also, I was missing it, like being actually up there and ministering, because I feel like that's where my relationship, that's where I can commune with God through dance. And even though I've built a relationship with God outside of dance, I feel like it's going to be even stronger when I start back.
Yeah.
And I'm happy for that. I'm happy to see how that'll blossom, like how God will use me, not only, how he not only used me outside of dance, with like the events that he had gave me visions for.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to see like my growth back in dance, how I can let the enemy know, like, you ain't me.
Yeah,
like I'm back.
Yeah,
back and better.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good story, because it's when you listen to it, it's almost like y'all was like, man, look, I want to take our relationship to different heights. Because even I think about like when I was playing music or the drums, and I feel like a lot of times we find a thing that we're good at, that we can also we'll do it in church, and through that thing sometimes we'll feel like we're actually building a relationship with God, because I go to church every Sunday and I play the drums, or I go to church every Sunday and I lead worship. And we think because we're doing something in church that's quote unquote for God, right, we have a relationship with God.
Right.
And some, because even with me, I noticed like, dang, I really like now the relationship I got with him now, it's night and day to when I was in church every Sunday doing this, doing that. I'm like, man, I really didn't have a relationship.
And I see that now because back when I was dancing, I was in school. I can see how I was dancing, but I was still straddling on the fence. Like I was dancing up there ministering, but I'd be out on weekends, at party, at clubs, drinking and all that. But when I stopped dancing for a while, I feel like that's when my relationship with God grew much stronger because I had to seek Him without the dancing. So when I wasn't dancing, what would I do now? I had to go and seek Him outside of dancing. I had to build that relationship outside of dancing because when I was dancing, that's how I felt Him, to be honest. But that whole time that I was out, it seems as if I went through everything I had to go through for a reason to get closer to Him. Through my suffering, He pulled me closer to Him. I had to seek Him through my suffering. Even when the times when He could have told me to depart from Him, He brought me closer to Him. And I thank Him every day. Like, even though it did take a toll on me mentally and emotionally to not dance, I also thank Him, for keeping me sane outside of dance to, build that relationship on Him, not just through dance, but I can have that relationship outside of dance as well. I can know Him outside of dance as well.
Wow.
I can know Him through the week by not dancing as well. I can, play gospel and just, like be in His presence outside of dance. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, I don't have to feel Him through just dance.
100%. It's all, this is gonna be good. Thank you for that too. I think we normalize situationships with Him.
Right.
Because it's no different. If you only know Him through this one thing, that's no different than just hanging out with somebody because y'all hunch, and that's the only thing y'all do. You have nothing else in common, no other interests, no mindset, not the same. That's just the only thing y'all have in common is that y'all link up to do that. And that's literally the same thing where people only know how to worship Him in one way. And if you take that from them, they really don't have nothing. And it's just, and I'm so glad, like, people like me, like you, like other people that are listening that unexperienced this, like, man, I'm glad that He exposed that about myself. Because if He don't expose it to you, I promise you, you will swell up and down. I know God.
That you got a relationship with Him. Just because you believe in Him, you got a relationship with Him.
Sure.
But I think many people, and it's crazy because I'm going to talk about this on the 22nd. I said people have to establish a relationship with God in order to have faith in Him. And if you don't have that relationship with God, if that relationship is not established, how can you have faith in someone that you don't have a relationship with?
Absolutely.
That's just like having a relationship with a man or a woman and you don't know them. Like, how can you, put faith into them to, help you grow in that relationship, help you build them up, or you build them up if you don't know them. And that's the same thing with God. Like I said, how can you believe that He'll make a way for you if you don't know Him? Like, you can know Him, but you have to believe in Him. You have to establish that relationship. You have to seek Him. And I feel as if I learned a lot of it. I did a lot of seeking when I was out, it's so much stuff that I realized, outside of dance. Like, I just don't need dance to get close to Him.
Okay, I do have a question because I understand what you mean, but some people may not know what you mean by when you say I had to seek Him. So what do you mean by that, or what was you doing when you say I had to seek Him? Was it certain things you was doing? Was it, what does that mean? So
I'm gonna go back to December of 2022 to January of 2023. I faced a deep depression to the point where I isolated myself from a lot of people, and I felt as if I had no way out. Like, everything was just crumbling down on me all at once. Like, I had so much pressure, like, from the accident, my job, school, everything was just happening like at once, and I didn't know who to turn to. And I didn't want to go to my parents because I know, like, they already have a lot going on themselves at that time. But I wanted to work it out for myself because I knew I got myself into certain situations that could have been avoided.
Yeah.
However, I'm like, dang God, like, what else can I do? Like, yeah, I'm dancing. That's not enough. Like, God, I need you. So I started reading my Bible. I started praying more. I started listening to gospel music more because at that time, I was, listening to just any and everybody. You have to also be careful of who you listen to as well, music-wise. But literally reading my Bible more, isolation, even though some isolation is good, not all isolation is good,
100%.
but isolating myself from the environment that I initially was in, I had to remove myself from that. I had to first establish accountability with myself, like telling God specifically, God, I know I did this, I know I was wrong in this, but how can I fix this? And that's how, through that suffering of depression, everything like that, reading my Bible and getting myself closer to God, that's how I started really seeking Him, and that's how the vision of the season of her redemption came into place.
Wow.
And through that, it's like God told me, like, you need to tell your story. And I'm like, God, like, I can't do that. Like, I'm still drenched in my own sin. How can you have me help somebody else when I can't even help myself?
Yeah.
But I learned a lot through that, knowing that I can help somebody come out of the same sin that I was in. Yeah. Maybe they battling the same thing I was in. So really, just reading your Bible, like having a desire for Him, is really what I mean by seeking Him. If you don't have a desire, then you're not going to have a desire to seek Him. You're not going to have a desire to, turn to Him when situations get tough. You'll turn to men instead of to Him. And I didn't want to do that. I was so tired of doing that. I was so tired of putting myself, like turning to men in my situations. I was so tired of turning to boys in my situation. I was so tired of trying to get my mind off of the stuff, off of the things that I knew was bad for me, that was driving me insane. I was tired of like turning to men for everything, going to parties, getting drunk. And that's one of the main reasons why I would get drunk, so I can take my mind off of what I was going through. And that's one of the reasons why I love to drink liquor straight, because I got drunk faster. I got drunk faster, and it's like, dang, now that I'm drunk, I feel good. I don't feel the stuff I felt when I was sober. Like, it was a different me when I was drunk.
Yeah.
A whole different me. Like, if you was out on the street and you saw me, like, no, that's not you.
Yeah. And it's so funny because we talked about that one time before about the personalities, about when we drink, because the mind, like when we're under these influences, like basically how I look at it in my head is our spirit that's operating, well, God's spirit that's operating the ship removes, so that leaves an empty host.
Right.
And these other spirits, I get into the driver's seat and occupy the host. That's how I look at it in my head. As we see these things, when people talk about, oh, when I drink this, I get this way, or if I do that, I get that way. And it's like, no, these are spirits that are manifesting themselves within you. Right. Which is why you acting out of norm.
Right.
You acting out of the Spirit of God. Let's just say that.